Well, good morning. This is going to be part one of an overview of astrological transits for America this year, of what I've expected and what I've observed so far. And then we'll also take a look later on what I expect for the rest of the year. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, and there we are. So this is American transits expected and observed for 2022. Now, let's see. There we go. I have an introduction. It's not that long, but I'm not going to read it to you. It gets kind of boring when I read something this long. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause for a second. And that is a cue for you to just pause the video, and then you can read this on your own and then start the video again. So let me pause my talking for a moment right now. Okay, hopefully you paused your video and read this. And let's go on to the next page. And again, I'm just going to pause for a second so that you can read this. And then I'll go on and I'll pause right now. Okay, and now let's go on to the first part that I call the awful first 4 months of the year. Okay, this part I will read to you. The late great mundane astrologer Andre Barbeau predicted that the years 2020 through the latter part of March 2022 would be the worst of the century based upon a planetary index he used. When the outer planets from Jupiter through Pluto are closer to one another, the index is low, and discord and imbalance on planet Earth are high. The lowest point of the cycle occurred in late March of 2022. And speaking for myself, I have never felt such a sense of despair and hopelessness in the world as I did during that time. Okay, so the way this planetary index is put together is you just look at the cumulative angular distance between the planets from Jupiter through Pluto. And when all of the planets are relatively close together, that cumulative sum is low. And that's when things are kind of in balance. All the energy is just sort of lumped into one small area rather than being nicely balanced out. So we got really imbalanced at the beginning of 2020 about here, and we've been pretty much at rock bottom for the past few years, and we hit the absolute low in late March of 2022. And in March and even into April, things felt pretty bad. And after that, they got a little better. Okay, the next slide will show why things were still pretty bad in April. And let me read this. Also, during the period from December 15th, 2021 through April 23rd, 2022, all of the planets, with the exception of the moon, remain on one side of the lunar node. So these guys right here are the nodes for the moon, the lunar nodes, and everything was on one side. Only the moon can occasionally travel over to the other side. Now, this is a condition known in Vedic astrology as Palasarpa Yoga, and indicates that the planetary energies, being hemmed in for several months. This, combined with the low point of the Barbeau Planetary Cycle Index, predicted a low point for humanity, during which it was difficult for energy in any sense to flow, and life felt very stagnant as Putin began his war on Ukraine. Great difficulty was expected during this time, and great difficulty was observed. Okay, Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the Pluto return and the chart or those charts that are used for the Declaration of Independence, which is often referred to as the USA chart, even though some people use different charts for the birth of America. But the Pluto return is the big thing for America in 2022. This is the return of transing Pluto to the position it was at back on July 4th, 1776. So the most impactful event that astrologers anticipated for America in 2022 was the return of transing Pluto to its original position in the July 4th, 1776 chart for the Declaration of Independence. You can see over here in this Declaration of Independence chart, it was at about 27 degrees Capricorn, 33 minutes. Now, in astrology, Pluto represents either death or transformation, and countries tend to either decline or transform during their Pluto returns. Also, during Pluto returns, secrets and corruption tend to be uncovered. Given what has transpired so far, it is hard to deny that America is undergoing great transformations this year. Okay, we've seen a lot going on, a lot of division in the country. The overturn of Roe v. Wade is huge. Other huge things, changes the Supreme Court is making. And then we have the January 6th committee, which is uncovering all sorts of secrets about what was going on in government. All right, the dates for the geocentric Pluto return are February 20, July 11, and December 28. And the date for the heliocentric Pluto return is June 8th. Okay, geocentric, that is using, looking at things from the perspective with Earth at the center of things, the way we usually do. But we can also look at things from a heliocentric point of view, where we put Sun at the center. And notice that the heliocentric Pluto return was on June 8th, and one of the geocentric Pluto returns was on July 11th. Those are pretty close together. So I really expected the month from June through maybe mid-July to be pretty intense. Okay, on February 24th, just a few days after the first Pluto return, and with Mars nearing exact conjunction, with both transiting Pluto and natal Pluto in the Declaration of Independence chart, Russia invaded Ukraine, and the conflict quickly became a proxy war between America and Russia. All right, it looks like over here, this is the actual Pluto return for this Declaration of Independence chart on July 4th. You can see Pluto in the sky was at the same position where it was on July 4th, 1776. And it was just a few days after that that Russia invaded Ukraine. Okay. Now, this is the second geocentric Pluto return on July 11, 2022. And let's see, I mentioned here the heliocentric Pluto return occurred on June 8th, and the second geocentric Pluto return occurred on July 11, and the month in between coincided with the highly impactful public hearings of the January 6th committee. Recall that Pluto returns often coincide with the revelation of secrets and the fall of empires, and America is now seen by many as a struggling democracy, and many things that had heretofore been hidden were revealed during this period from June through July. And we have also seen dramatic shifts in the Supreme Court. Thus, so far, what has been observed has pretty much been along the lines of what was expected. Again, America is undergoing great transformation this year, and According to some organizations, we're now classified as a struggling democracy. And people wonder if our democracy is going to survive and whether a civil war, a second civil war, might happen in the near future. Okay. Now, the final Pluto return occurs on December 28th, and it remains to be seen what will happen. However, at the same time, transiting Pluto will be in opposition to natal Neptune and square natal Mars. And this suggests competing ideologies that could erupt into violence. Furthermore, transiting Chiron will be in opposition to natal Saturn, and Chiron usually manifests as either wounding, healing, or transcendence. I'll talk more about Chiron next, but for now, suffice it to say that there will be additional planetary stresses present during this final Pluto return. Okay, there's a few things here that I'm going to talk more about later, but let me point out a couple of things about these other things right now. First, in our Declaration of Independence chart, we have Neptune in Virgo, which is not its best position because Neptune likes to dissolve the boundaries between things, and Virgo likes to be concrete, logical, and precise. It's kind of like the Vulcan of the zodiac sometimes. And so it's not the warm, fuzzy kind of feeling that Neptune likes. So with Neptune and Virgo, sometimes the intellect is used to promote delusional thinking, if you will. And this Neptune is where Mars and Gemini, as a consequence, with this Neptune and this Mars combined together, acting at the same time via the square, it can inflame passions, and people can decide upon a certain position. It can be rather delusional, but they think it's logical, and they can get very angry if someone opposes their position. Well, with transiting Neptune in Pisces, which it likes better, Pisces is the home for Neptune, a different vision, one more transcendent, one with softer boundaries is being presented. And so we have some competing ideologies here, and that can lead to violent rhetoric and maybe violent actions. Now, the Chiron opposite Saturn, which I'll talk about more later, let me just say this about it now. Chiron pushes us toward transcendence, to move from the personal to the transpersonal. With Chiron opposite Saturn, Saturn tries to make things more concrete. With the Saturn in Libra, it creates, that's a place where Saturn tries to create justice and balance in relationships. Chiron, in both the July 4th, 1776 Declaration of Independence chart, and also where it's transiting now, it's in Aries. Aries has more to do with the individual. And so in this Declaration of Independence chart for America, we had Chiron opposite Saturn. And this showed me where America is truly exceptional. With an opposition, you're trying to integrate one thing with something else. So with our sense of justice and relationships, we're integrating with that this notion of the beauty and transcendence, the spiritual dignity of every individual, the words that all men, all beings are created equal. And that is where America is truly exceptional and a light unto the nations, if you will. Okay, so Amidst everything else going on this year, there's also a resurgence of this idea taking place with transiting Chiron in opposition to natal Saturn. So we got a lot going on this year. We got the Pluto return, which is transforming America. We're uncovering lots of secrets. We have this opposition of transiting Neptune to natal Neptune, which in itself was in a square to natal Mars, and transiting Neptune is also squaring natal Mars. So we have competing ideologies, competing viewpoints of American reality, and it's sometimes spilling over into violence. At the same time, some people are waking up. Some are being wounded first, others have been wounded or in the process of healing, and a few are in the process of transcending, and we're realizing the spiritual dignity and worth and the holiness of every single individual. Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing for now. There we go. And this is the end of part 1, so I'm going to stop recording, and I hope to see you in part 2, where I'll cover more of what's going on astrologically for America this year. Bye.